going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Some interesting news coming out today. Randy Miller of NJ.com said that the Yankees are considering and talking to the Miami Marlins about a potential Gleyber Torres trade. Now, this is not the first time we've heard the Yankees connected to the Marlins. Last year with Pablo Lopez. We heard the rumors, and Gleyber Torres. They really like Gleyber Torres. They have for a long time. And, Torres is one of our best hitters right now. Of course, you see the Yankees winning 8-3 yesterday. Aaron Judge is a freaking monster. The guy is sent from the baseball gods to save us. But at the same time, the deadline is kind of getting a little thin. Cody Bellinger, the Cubs took him off the market. So where do the Yankees go from here? Heimer Candelario. There's 8 teams in the mix to sign or to land Heimer Candelario. And the Yankees, is it even worth going all in and giving up a massive haul of prospects for Candelario, who's going to be a free agent after this season? There's a good argument to make the Yankees may just be better off sitting still. Maybe trying to offload some bad contracts and then retool, reset for the 2024 season. It's not like we have a lack of talent. We have guys that are good enough to propel this team forward. They just aren't hitting all well at the same time, and that's kind of been a problem. Want to talk about Gleyber Torres, though, his value, if we think trading him is the right move, and if we think that the guys that the Yankees want in return, they want a pretty significant haul. They're asking for 2 MLB-ready starters and prospects. Kind of unreasonable if you ask me. I think the Marlins are kind of laughing at the request, but as the trade deadline gets closer and the Marlins kind of are trying to, boost their wild card hopes and get Gleyber Torres, maybe they'd be willing to part ways with some of their really controllable pitching talent. So, Ryan, what are your thoughts on Gleyber Torres' value, the rumors that he could be dealt to the Miami if the deal does come together, and the players that Randy Miller listed as the guys they're kind of targeting in this prospective deal?
Yeah, so I want to just go out on a limb here and say that if the Yankees got Braxton Garrett for Gleyber Torres, from a player value standpoint, that's a win, right? From just a pure player value standpoint, for the New York Yankees, that's a win. But here's the issue here, and here's what you hinted at with, when you introduced the idea of trading Gleyber here. Gleyber's one of the Yankees' best hitters, and this is a team who can't hit. So that's really the key thing here that's probably holding the Yankees back from a deal like this, and that's, can they replace Gleyber Torres' offense? Now, in a vacuum, I think they could. But I don't know if they can do it at this deadline. I think that's more of an off-season thing. Maybe you go out and you sign a big-time third baseman. Obviously, guys like Matt Chapman are going to be available in the free agent market. If you were to do that and then slide over Oswald Peraza second base, then you kind of recoup your value. But number one, that requires you spending a lot of money, which, not saying that the Yankees shouldn't spend money or that I care if the Yankees spend money or not, but it's going to change the way they operate if they spend money and it doesn't, work out for them. We've seen time and time again, the Yankees go out and make a big acquisition and it just doesn't work out for them. So not saying they shouldn't make big acquisitions, but, this team, I think, is kind of a great example of those bad acquisitions can add up, and they're starting to add up for the Yankees. So they have to be careful when they're giving out big contracts. But Braxton Garrett's a really good pitcher. Full stop, Braxton Garrett adding a cutter. It's made him one of the best left-handed pitchers in the sport. In his last 15 starts, which is really the time frame where you can start saying this is where he included his cutter, 3.5 ERA, 3.25 FIP. He has a 29.7% strikeout rate, a 3.8% walk rate. This is a really, really, really good pitcher, Alex. This is someone who I think could be a number 3 on a New York Yankees pitching staff, and a really good Yankees pitching staff, not like a shitty one like this one, which, no disrespect to this rotation, but it's so battered that the number 3 right now is Clark Schmidt, right? Clark Schmidt works better as a 5-starter. I think yesterday was a really good audition for Clark Schmidt as that 5-starter. The dude's a gamer. The dude's a baller. The dude goes out there and just fucking competes. Excuse my language there, but, the dude, I love him, right? You see the energy after he gets that big strikeout against O'Hearn. A lot of people doubted him coming into the season. I saw a lot of comments about him being a loser or this or that, but Alex, I think you're starting to look at him as a big part of this rotation going forward as a back-end guy. You have Cole, you have Rodon. I know Cortez is off to a rough start, but I believe in his stuff. I still think he's a pretty good pitcher. You throw Garrett into that mix, and now you have a rotation for the next 5 years that's cost control and locked in there. That's definitely enticing for the Yankees. So, if they can replace Gleyber Torres' production, that's still the question that remains. But, if the Yankees were able to get Braxton Garrett and more, assuming they got a pitching prospect, that would be a win of massive proportions for the Yankees. But again, the big thing here, are the Yankees in a position to trade Gleyber Torres? I would say no, but this is a weird deadline. There's some weird stuff that's going to happen. I didn't anticipate the Yankees would even be in a conversation to be getting Braxton Garrett in the first place, but here we are. So, Alex, I guess the question I have for you is, do you think there's a contingency plan to trade Torres and get some sort of, production elsewhere from the infield? Do you think there's a feasible way to do it on this market?
You know, the Gleyber Torres is kind of an interesting player for the Yankees because he's one of our best offensive pieces. And if you're the Yankees and you go and trade Gleyber Torres for pitching, you're basically wiping this season down. Like, you're wiping it away. You're basically forfeiting the rest of this season because without Gleyber Torres, this offense is feeble. I mean, without Judge, we know it's incapable. But you take away, Torres from the equation, and suddenly you lose one of your only productive guys. If they don't go out and get another guy who's equally as productive, if not better, they're in a bad spot. And look, the pitching is great. Like, I would love to add some pitchers like this, especially because, Sevy's definitely gone after this year. Herman, I would be fine trading him, maybe including him in the deal with Torres, and to be honest with you, to kind of leverage it if they were able to get a little bit more. And, right now, if you're going to go and get pitching and you're not going to go get offense, you have to acknowledge the fact that you're betting on the future. And I think that's what the Yankees should be doing. They should be retooling for the future to a degree. I think that going out and getting guys that can make a positive impact now, but also are controllable for a long time, makes a lot of sense. Like Braxton Garrett, I'm pretty sure is a free agent like in 2029. Like, you have him under control for the next 6 years. And that's exactly where you want to be if you're the Yankees. You want a guy like Braxton Garrett who's young. He has a ton of upside. He's a lefty, so he has a little bit of that diversity. But think about a rotation that includes Rodon, Nestor Cortez, and Braxton Garrett. That's 3 lefty pitchers. Is that a good thing? Is it good to have 3 lefty starters in a rotation, Ryan? Like, I'll ask you this because you probably know more about that than I do. Is having 3 lefties in a rotation, that's probably kind of a rare thing. And I feel like is that a good thing, or is that something you'd be like, maybe that's a liability?
Yeah, so in the case of, left-handed pitching in a rotation, right, like, it depends on what they succeed at. Now, Rodon and Cortez are high fastball guys, so, that type of arsenal and that type of profile plays extremely well against right-handed hitting as well. So, more so, does their arsenal play well against both-handed, batters or both sides of the plate? Yes, and I think that's really the important thing here. And for Braxton Garrett, if you asked me entering the season, I would say he's the guy you're concerned about against right-handed hitting. But with the addition of that cutter, now he has a weapon versus righties. That cutter's been a really nice pitch for him. He has a 28% whiff rate, on that pitch. In terms of run value, it's at a +2, which is really good for pitch in terms of like pitchers. It gets slugged around a little bit, but you expect fastballs to get hit pretty hard. But overall, the ability to get swings and misses, the ability to induce some softer contact has definitely helped him. And overall, the big thing here is that you're just getting good pitching, right? And this is controllable pitching. I think Braxton Garrett has like 5.5 years of control. So, dude, you're getting a really solid starter for a very long time. Again, it's hard for you to justify trading Gleyber Torres in this offense, but like, Alex, if we're talking about it from a buy and sell standpoint, let's set ourselves up for the future here, the Yankees wouldn't have to spend the dime on pitching entering the offseason. They would have, X amount of money with Montas, Donaldson, Severino coming off the books. Maybe you look to move a Rizzo. Maybe you're a little more comfortable trading a pitching prospect.
Gleyber.
Gleyber, right? You move the $10 million from Gleyber. That's $50 million right there that you have. Not even. It's more because it's $30 million from the pitchers and Gleyber, and then $25 million for Donaldson. That's $55 million to play with to get bats. I know this offseason the free agent class isn't great, but you get some supplemental guys, and now you're looking at a pretty good offense. So if the Yankees can get a Heimer Candelario, put him at third base, maybe they put Peraza at second base, and or they put IKF even at second base, or LeMahieu at second base. I think you can make it work. But I think that hinges on your ability to get Candelario. And as you mentioned earlier in the episode, there are 8 teams in on him. So, I think it's going to take a lot of moving parts to make this work. But if they can, I'd pull the trigger on it.
I mean, look, the $55 million you get, Josh Donaldson's $21 million back. You probably in arbitration, Gleyber Torres is going to get more than $10 million. He might get 12. So you're looking at leaving a little bit more there, and then as you mentioned, Sevy, like $55 million. That's not even including IKF's expiring contract. So make that $61 million. Montas you mentioned. There's probably plenty of other guys on expiring deals that are just kind of adding to the tally. If the Yankees collect all that money and they go and maybe they sign Candelario and they sign Cody Bellinger, you have a switch hitter and you have a really good lefty bat now in the outfield. Also, that's not even mentioning Harrison Bader. I don't know how much he's making right now, but it's a couple $1 million. So, there's money coming off the books. You can reallocate that. Go get guys with proven histories of success offensively, and you can start to rely on some of your youth. Like, give Everson Pereira a chance to win a starting job in the outfield. They view him as a guy who could be a productive LMB player. We just don't know because they don't actually use any of these guys. The infield, Peraza, what are they going to do there? They still have DJ LeMahieu. He can play second base. He's traditionally a second baseman. He can lock it down there if you need him to. He's having a really good July. Peraza, maybe Peraza ends up being the utility piece. He could start at second base, or DJ starts at second base, or vice versa. They maybe just rotate those guys around. But Peraza, maybe they view him as that utility piece, can play shortstop, can play second base, and can play third base. Like, do you think there's actually a role for Peraza as a utility man, an infield utility man in the future, or do you think like they need to situate him as a starter if they're going to keep him?
Yeah, so, the way I view it is that, the Yankees, when it comes to their prospects, when it comes to, like, who's untouchable, who's not, I think that what makes a player untouchable is really, the value that's available on the market, right? So we're talking about Jason Dominguez, Everson Pereira. Like, in theory, these guys aren't untouchable, but really, like, Juan Soto's the only guy you'd even think about trading these guys for, so, it's like, are the Yankees really going to be trading for Juan Soto? I don't think so. And then from a major league standpoint, like Gleyber Torres, like he's not untouchable, but again, like who you trade him for is a little bit funky here. And then another thing here too, I think a big factor of this is, it depends on the fact that this report is true in terms of who's available, right? So, I'm not trying to disrespect Randy Miller. Maybe I am. But, if he's the guy telling me that Braxton Garrett's available, I think I'm going to bring that up with a grain of salt. But ultimately, you're looking for fit and value. You're looking to make the right move. And you really, like, trading Gleyber is one of those that if it pans out badly for you, that's hard to survive as a president of baseball operations. If you're Brian Cashman, I think at this point you're starting to get a little bit tired with hey, I've spent X amount of money, you've traded X amount of players, and we're still not winning the World Series. Could you imagine if Gleyber Torres was part of the glutton of guys the Yankees have gotten rid of, and bringing in a different guy, and that guy doesn't work out, and Gleyber does work out elsewhere, and you miss the playoffs, right? Like this, we're starting to get into the inexcusable territory. We're starting to get into the media pressure and the internal pressure may cause people to lose their jobs. So I think from a front office standpoint, not that you're scared to make any moves, but more so this doesn't feel like the team that you make a stupid move for. You try to make a gamble for. I don't think this team is netting a Joey Gallo type deal, if you get what I'm saying, like that big trade that like they trade a flurry of prospects for. So I think that creates a lot of untouchables, but end of the day, this market's interesting. This market's kind of ever evolving. And I think there are going to be more guys available than we initially considered. So I guess the last thing I really want to point out here is that we're not advocating that Gleyber Torres has to get traded, right? Like I'm very pro keep Gleyber. But the stipulation has always been, if I'm blown away by an offer, that's the only way I'm going to do it. And if Braxton Garrett is a realistic possibility, I think that counts, to me at least, maybe not to everyone, as blow me away good offer. I got to take that deal. That's one of those, you just figure it out after once you make that deal. And I think Garrett would be I'm thinking about the rotation now. You have him, you have like Cortez or him as your 4, Rodon and Cole as your 1 and as your 2 and 1, Schmidt as your 5. Like that rotation's complete, and that rotation's a young one. Garrett's 25, Schmidt is 27, Cortez is 27. Cole and Rodon are the older guys from that roster, but they're also the best pitchers on that team. So, overall, you have a rotation for the future, and it allows you to just focus all your assets going forward on the offense, and it builds you for the future. So this team kind of needs a direction, getting a little bit younger, getting a little bit better, but in the same regard, you don't want to be trading Gleyber Torres. It's a tough conversation, but I think the value is there to make it work.
Look, if there's a reasonable enough deal, you have to consider everything. The Yankees are asking for the stars and hoping to land on the moon. I think that's kind of the context here of what they're attempting to do. I think they're asking for way more than Gleyber's worth. See how desperate the Marlins are. Maybe they end up with Braxton Garrett, and a prospect. Maybe they end up with something decent, a mid-level prospect, like maybe like a Clayton Beater, a guy with some upside that they can develop and refine that has some good stuff. So you never know. I mean, look, the Yankees traditionally have been pretty solid at getting prospects that turn into something from deals. But with that being said, who knows what they're really willing to take? Who knows if they really want to trade Gleyber Torres? It's been reported that they were listening to offers. They were asking for a ton. The Miami Marlins probably came to Brian Cashman and said, "We want Gleyber Torres, and we're willing to pay. We'll give you a pitcher for him, whatever it might be." But Brian Cashman's like, maybe we don't want to move Gleyber Torres. Like maybe if we're gonna move him, we want a deal that's going to blow us away. That kind of seems like what happened. They just wanted to ask for a deal that was almost unreasonable because they don't necessarily want to move Gleyber, but if they're going to, it's going to be for a trade that benefits them tremendously. And with the market super thin, anyone the Yankees have of value is very valuable. Like the market's really bad right now, guys. I don't know if the Yankees are going to end up making any moves. Like there's just Grichuk is a terrible defender. He's a right-handed hitter. We know that doesn't fit their profile. Are they gonna sit down and go after Dylan Carlson? He's okay. Having an okay year. He's not great against left-handed pitchers. It's tough to say like what exactly is going to happen right now. Or he's not great as a left-handed batter, rather, but it's interesting to see like what will happen over the next couple days. But of course, we got you guys covered on all of the Yankees news and trade rumors. So we appreciate you guys tuning in, my friends. Love to hear your perspectives below on the Gleyber Torres concept and all the rumors coming out right now. Make sure to like and subscribe as always, and we'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.